Yo, Billy Ho here, coming at you with the DraftKings show for the PGA Wyndham Championship, Greensboro, North Carolina. And I am joined by my man David, the DFS chef, and we're going to get right into things. How you doing, David?
I'm good, looking forward to it. This is the last regular season event, and then we go into the FedEx playoffs next week. So looking forward to it. New structure, So a lot of guys are on the outside looking in right now.
Yes, sir. And just FYI, it's going to be the following week is St. Jude, and then after that, I believe is BMW. Well, that's top 70 this time around that get in, and then it whittles down to 50, and then 30 go to the Tour Championship like always. So it's a bit of a different, it used to be just you could trip and stumble your way into the first playoff and then try to parlay it from there, but now it's a lot tougher. So we do have some guys like Justin Thomas and Hideki Matsuyama and guys that are kind of looking to improve their position that may not have normally played here. And it's Sedgefield Country Club, Donald Ross design. So go check out my preview video all about that. I got the flyovers and all the stats and all that good stuff. We're going to talk DraftKings pricing, and we're going to get started right now. All right. Well, I'm sure everybody that plays DraftKings has looked at DraftKings pricing and they see what we're working with. Sung J M up top at 10,800. And then we got three other guys, Hideki, Russell Henley, and Sam Burns round out your 10K range. I'm going to kick it over to David, and he's going to just give us a little bit of stat breakdown on his stat. We'll look at his stat model here in just a second, but kind of go over what his stats are for this week, and then we'll get him to kick us off, and we'll do 9K and up since there's a limited amount of those guys. So we'll start. I'll get you to give me your 9Ks, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll go on from there.
Sounds
Go ahead,
good.
Dave.
Unlike last week, we have much more data and history at Sedgefield Country Club than we did the previous week. Last week was a bit of carnage, but this week I think is a lot going to be much easier to pick your golfers this week. We got tree line narrow fairways here, so definitely going to be focusing much more on driving accuracy or good drive percentage, whichever you prefer using. I actually went driving accuracy this week, where weeks prior I used good drive percentage. You still want to try and find guys that can gain off the tee. However, distance isn't necessary here. You can have guys that gain off the tee that aren't long hitters. Henley is not the longest hitter, but he always seems to gain off the tee, and that's because of his exceptional iron play. Each and every week, obviously, strokes gained approach is going to be a huge factor. Looking at strokes gained putting this week, precisely Bermuda putting. Birdie or better percentage, because we are going to see scoring this week. The winner is going to most likely be real low. Par 5 scoring average is something I'm going to be looking at, because these are the easiest par 5s on tour. Expect a good amount of eagles on the par 5. So as a secondary stat, it's not on my model, but if you go to PGAtour.com, you can look at par 5 eagles. So that's something I'm going to be looking at. Birdie to bogey ratio is something I've really started using in my models quite frequently. And then within the approach, if you want to really narrow in on the approach, you could look at the buckets between 125 and 200. So 125, 150, 150, 175, 175 to 200. They all three of those stats here are above PGA Tour average. So you can really look at that as well. Obviously we have access to Rick's, stat model, and also his course key stats. And off to the left, you see two things that pop in on there, which is distance from edge of fairway as well as right rough tendency. So that again is accuracy based. So definitely really focusing on accuracy. And then as we go into this 9K plus range, guys, I'm going to be looking at playing, which obviously we can see from early projected ownership are going to be, on the heavier owned side, most likely. Siwoo Kim, even though he's missed his last two cuts, His last two cuts, we're talking, overseas. We're talking, the Open Championship, which I can forgive. Uh, Travelers, Travelers was a little hard to swallow, but I do think that he has exceptional course history here. Three top five or better finishes here in the last 5 years. So he's going to be looking at someone that I'm going to be looking at this week, ranking eighth in my model right now. JT Poston, former winner here, who's just on a heater right now.
Definitely.
Finished second, finished tied for second last week. Could have had solo second. He did. I mean, it did cost himself $260,000,
Yeah.
but that most likely was the play to go for. And I'm going to
Well,
say that I'm
honestly, it wasn't so much the going for it. I was fine with the going for it. He just didn't work out. I mean,
yeah,
if you go for it, you're gonna double, triple, quadruple bogey. But if you lay
exactly.
up, then you're gonna make par and finish second. There was no guarantees on anything. He
No,
just
not
hit a bad shot, you know.
exactly. And it happens. And had he made it, he might have had an eagle opportunity, and he possibly could have, you know, forced a playoff. But it is what it is. But he's coming in with exceptional form, past winner here. He's not grading out great in my model. I mean, other than the win, he does have three missed cuts here in the last 5 years. So it does kind of err on a little bit of caution, but then you got to like really go back and look at what kind of form he was coming in at on the years
Yes.
that he missed, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously for those people that have access to Rick's site, you can go back and see. And actually, you can actually even go back and go to owgr.com and you can go back and see what kind of form he was coming in at. You won't get your strokes gained total that Rick shows, but you will get where he finished at least coming in prior to this tournament in years past. Shane Lowry, even though he's not great at this course, he's someone I might be looking at for possible leverage. He's still, and I don't know how accurate this is. I mean, he's showing 20% projected
Yeah.
ownership on Rick's
like
site
like I
right now.
said, this is just a first look ownership. All this will drastically change. People are going to
Yeah,
start talking a little more. Adam Scott, who has a second place finish here, just a couple of years ago, and Aberg, it'll bleed over. The Justin Thomas faithful will probably start coming out of the woodwork again. Maybe he'll hold some kind of presser and say how close he is, so he'll get up to 12 or 13. But yeah, it'll spread around. Sung Jae
I
will get a
mean,
little bit more.
I know that I read that Justin Thomas needs to finish T18 or better this week to make it inside the top 70. So I
I
mean,
I
it
didn't see that. I saw him
yeah,
like he's 116th.
yeah,
I
but
looked it up the other day. He needs to well, maybe that was somebody. I thought it was
I'm
JT.
I'm
He either
pretty
needs
sure
to win or come in second.
I'm
But
pretty sure that I read.
that might not have been JT. That might have been somebody
No,
else
I think
actually.
I'm fairly sure that I read that he needs to finish T18 or better to make it
Yeah,
inside
you're
the top
probably
70.
right, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think I had somebody. Oh, that was Billy Horschel. I'm sorry.
There
Billy
you go.
Horschel needs to win this tournament or come in solo second, and
Yeah,
and he
which
will and he to get in. So
yeah, which,
JT, like I said, yeah, he even missing that cut last week didn't kill him. So he can trip and stumble his way, like you said, get a top 15 finish and get it done that way.
now the only thing that we don't have is JT really never plays this tournament that often. He's never really needed to, and this year he needs to, and he's coming in with just really bad form. And for a guy that hasn't played this tournament in, I think, like 6 or 7 years,
Well, that's what I
I, I,
was.
I don't know. And he's someone that
Yeah,
sprays the ball off the tee. His putter's not that good. I mean, I just can't see myself going to Justin Thomas this week. I mean,
yeah,
you will get leverage on the field if you take that risk. And as you can see, these 10K plus guys, they're pretty close together. Sung Jae, who definitely hurt me last week because I went with his course history, and once again this week we look at his course history again, and he
oh yeah,
does exceptional at this course where Hideki does not. But you look at Hideki's current form right now, and the ball striking that Hideki has, especially over his last, like 24 rounds, 36 rounds, whatever it might be. is just head and shoulders above Sungjae's right now. So that you got to have a coin flip on. But Russell Henley's probably going to be the guy that I think most of the industry looks at because his ball striking is just on point. His putter's even actually gotten a lot better. He's actually, if you look, I think over his last like 5, 6, 7 tournaments, he's actually positive with the putter. So
That's
Henley's
always good.
probably going to be the guy that most people go to. And I mean, I am hearing some chatter about Sam Burns for leverage, but then again, we look at this first look ownership. I really don't think that that's gaining that much leverage on the field
No.
when we talk that. So I probably will be off of Sam Burns, even though we are back on Bermuda, and he did have a relatively good finish here. I think back in 2019 was it? So
Yeah.
I
20.
don't know. I mean, I'm probably when we talk 9K plus guys, I'm probably going to be eating chalk, you know, on these upper range, and I'll find the leverage down below.
That's I think we're in agreement on that one. Because the first part of my pool is probably going to be the real JT, which is Poston. Uh, Aberg, I thought I was like, man, he could really tear this course up because he scores a ton of DraftKings points, but his irons have kind of fallen apart over the last couple of tournaments since he went overseas to the Scottish Open. His irons have really soured, and that's I'm all about some irons. He just hammers that driver, and so this course kind of takes driver out of your hand distance wise. Now you saw me looking up the weather. I just wanted to see it because I haven't looked at it in a couple of days. I think since I did the preview show, and it's changed. It looked like it was just storms, from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but there's still sporadic. It looks like it's moving into the PM Thursday night, so we'll keep an eye on that. So if it has any effects on wave stacks, that it could possibly be like a PM AM or an AM PM. It depends on how much the rain and the wind affects. So that's something for like a Wednesday night when I do my final build. But I just want to give you guys a heads up that the weather has shifted some. And it looks like it's going to be like clear on Saturday and then maybe rain Sunday. So going back to this 9K and up, uh, I'm with you on Siwoo. Siwoo doesn't need form coming in. He's missed a couple of cuts, which actually had me thinking it might be good news that he did miss these cuts because Siwoo does tend to play really well for stretches and then have just the inexplicable missed cut. So now that he's gotten 2 in a row out of the way, that's all the more better for him to dial it in this week. So maybe that's good. So down in the 9K range, it is going to be Siwoo and Poston. And I might look into Scott. I might look into one of these two guys, Burns or Scott, if it does change. But like you said, if it's just 5 or 6 points projected ownership wise, I would probably still go Henley. But I might just do Burns Henley and then fade it up top. I mean, you can double stack and get them both. And then that way, I don't know how many lineups will start with Henley and Burns because people that play Henley are likely going to just go Henley Poston and save the 800 salary. So that's something I'm toying with right now. I got about 18 to 20, and I want to whittle down to about 15 to 17 by the time I make my final lineups. But down here, getting into more, Jaeger is somebody I think I'm going to pull the trigger on. I held off on him last week, but he's just been playing too well. I have to ignore the price because he's a guy that has gained distance, but he hits a lot of fairways and a lot of greens. He's got a solid. He's solid off the tee. The irons are working, and the putter seems to be doing okay right now. He does have bouts with putter issues. But these guys in here are all this upper 8K, mid to upper eights are all interesting to me. Even Benny On, he's got a couple of made cuts and a third place finish. That year, was that the CT Pan year? Now I've lost my place, but that's all right. CT Pan. No, 18. Okay. I was wondering because I think they both might have just blown it. Because I know CT Pan came up to the 18th hole and hit one out of bounds to lose this tournament a few years ago. And I think Benny On did something similar. He didn't he ended up finishing third, but he was like amongst the final group or something, and he did something really, you know, typical for Benny On. But so you get down here a little bit more. All these guys are in play. Denny, I keep thinking if Denny's going to win a tournament, it's going to be this one. If Denny's going to win this tournament, it's going to be this one. Well, we are, like you said, back on Bermuda, and Denny's the best putter in the field anyway, and he's just that much better on Bermuda than he is other surfaces. So the way he's striking it, the greens in regulation are easier to hit. He's hitting almost 70% of his fairways. I mean, I could see him fairways and greens in this thing all day long. So I'm going to eat that chalk. Um, then I'm gonna save a couple of these guys for you, and I'm going to get down a little further. And Alex Smalley, I was reminded Alex Smalley is the local guy who is the member of Sedgefield and all that. And he came through last year with the 13th. He got 29th the year before. I got no problem playing him. The only thing that worries me is his putting, and he's more familiar with these greens than probably most of the other ones that he deals with. And he's been striking it so well. I think 15% on him is just fine. Uh, Now I got down here in a little bit more of some pivots, and Taylor Moore is coming to mind now. I haven't talked about him. He's missed a couple of cuts, but that was John Deere in the Open, kind of similar in a fashion to Siwoo. Siwoo missed Travelers, but they both missed the Open Championship, which that's a toss for me. Anybody that misses the cut at the Open is immediately forgiven, especially a young player like Taylor Moore, which that might have been his first Open. I can't recall, but he had a T5 here last year, and he won in Florida this year, Bermuda Greens. And he plays well on tougher courses, but he can make a ton of birdies, and he's accurate enough. He can club down. He's long. Green's easier to hit. I think the putting, you can see half a stroke around with the putter. He's got the perfect mold. I'll definitely play him over Gary friggin' Woodland. But who do you like in this 8K range? And then you can take us on into 7.
Yeah, I honestly think that you can make your entire lineup in this 8K range this week. I mean, that's how much that I'm looking at this.
Or make at least a lineup to use, I'd
Yeah,
say. That's not a bad
because
idea.
I mean, I really like Steven Yeager this week. I've been playing Yeager. He's been making a ton of cuts. Cam Davis, who I mean is long, not the most accurate hitter, but then you look at his course history here, and he's done pretty
He
well. He's made
plays
the
well.
cut.
Yeah. Heritage, too.
Yeah,
He plays
he
well on
honestly,
Pete Dye and Don Ross type courses.
yeah, and you would think that he would be a lot better on these courses that favor distance, but surprisingly, like you mentioned, Heritage, he does a lot better when he clubs down. He has a
Yeah.
lot better finishes on these narrower fairway courses. So I am looking at Cam Davis, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he's just on the inside of the top 70 right now. So he still needs to have a good finish this week. Obviously, Denny McCarthy, someone we're looking at, can easily, like you said, easily forgive someone that misses a cut at the Open. That was the first time that he played the Open. So it was definitely something, as good as a putter as he is, being in that major environment overseas, I can easily forgive him missing that cut. Aaron Rye has been playing really good golf, making a good amount of cuts. He did make the cut here last year, but was like barely, there. He finished like 71st last year, but he's been playing really well. You mentioned Benny On. I mean, honestly, the only guy, and he's actually getting good ownership right now. The only guy that I'm not personally on in this 8K range is Bo Hostler. Um, he's the only guy that I'm probably going to full fade in this 8K range. Like Chris Kirk, I think sets up really well for this particular event. You already mentioned Smalley, local product. Um, Taylor Moore, who has missed a good amount of cuts. That's a little bit concerning, but this should be a course that sets up a lot better for him. So I definitely will have some Taylor Moore this week. Like you mentioned, I'd rather play Taylor Moore than Gary Woodland. And then as we get down to the 7K range, when we mention accuracy, you would think that JJ Spawn would be there. But then you look at JJ Spawn's history, and you go, wow.
Yeah,
So,
terrible.
so, so it's like where I'm at with JJ Spawn right now. I don't know. I really have got to, kind of look at it. But as of the moment, I'm favoring Vince Norman, who has not played here and who's actually a long hitter off the tee, but surprisingly pretty accurate for someone as long as he is, and he does hit a good amount of greens. So that's why I'm thinking I'm favoring Norman. Akshay sets up really well, at least on paper. The data says that he sets up really well. So Akshay is going to probably be someone I'm looking at. Eric Cole is not long. He's not the most accurate, but his short game just makes up for it. So I got to think I'm going to be looking at Eric Cole. Horschel finally looked like he might be starting to come back into the Billy Horschel we know. When you looked at what he did last week,
Yeah.
his salary bumped up again this week after that strong finish, and he's got really good course history here. So
Oh yeah.
uh, Horschel's probably someone I'll take a chance on in a couple lineups. I'm not going to go crazy. I'll probably be, right with the field on his ownership. Guys that I'm, really looking at would probably. I mean, you would think this guy would have a lot better history here, but if you go and look at Rick's preview video, he went into detail on it. The guy has lost 18 strokes putting at this event, like over the last, I think, 4 years, 5 years. But then his ball striking is like one of the best you're ever going to see at this event. He missed the cut last week, and I can probably forgive him for missing the cut last week. But Lucas Glover is like someone that he really looked at. Um, and I actually played a lot more Hubbard than I did Glover last week, and they both missed the cut. And
Mhm.
you would think that Hubbard would probably set up pretty well for this, and he has done well. He's made the cut the
Yeah.
last 3 years, but I'm actually favoring Glover more than I am Hubbard this week because when we talk accuracy, I think he's ranking out third in my model. And
Yeah, he's up
again,
there.
surprisingly, this guy you would think would do better, but Brendan Todd is probably going to be the guy that I'm focusing in on this week. Because we mentioned accuracy off the tee, and he hits and pounds fairway. So Todd's going to be looking. I'm going to be factoring in at, and then we'll go down further when we get down. I'll probably go with the lower 7K and 6K when we get back.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. So anyway, getting in here, I was agreeing with you. I had to look up JJ Spawn to see exactly what happened, but he was just, and he's a totally different player now than I think because if you remember the story, he had been diagnosed with diabetes, but they misdiagnosed what type he had. So he was kind of screwed up for a while. And then they finally got him on a proper diet and a proper regimen, and he lost a little weight. And this year he's come out, or last couple of years, he's come out and been a lot better, which he still missed the cut here last year. But, and it's putting a lot of times with him because I don't think he's a big Florida Bermuda guy on the putting surfaces. But he also, did a little bit of everything wrong. It looked like, one year his approach game was off. The next year he lost 4 around the green. So there's a little bit of everything. But Akshay, I'm definitely on. Even though he hasn't made a cut here, he's a different golfer. He's a guy that pounds fairways and just dials it in and can make. And you got to play him for the upside, especially if he's 5%, which I think it'll probably go up a hair bit, but not a lot. This whole range is going to be, I think, between 5 and 10%. I don't think Billy gets over 10% that much. I'm having him in the pool. I'm still waffling on Cole. We had a kind of a discussion in the Discord about Eric Cole matched up with a few other people like Brendan Todd, and Cole is not long off the tee, nor is he all that accurate. So I'm wondering if the reason why he's not as accurate is 290s all he can hit. Like he's really just trying to stretch every bit of distance he can get, and those lead to some wayward drives. So maybe him having to club down a little bit on some of these holes might help. But the guy's fire with the putter and around the green and on approach. so he can almost just dig himself out of trouble off the tee no matter what. So I think he's probably, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. You could play him or not play him. And maybe you get if you get the 30 place finish like last week, he made the cut. Also great, he didn't kill you. So he's kind of like a even Steven kind of thing. Down a little lower, Hubbard let me down as well. We've been hearing a lot of chatter on Pendrith. I think this is club down Pendrith territory. He hits 70% of his greens, even though he's 55% accuracy. He had the 13th here last year. He played really well at the Rocket. And then he also played, that doesn't list it here, but the Barbasol he played really well in. And so I think when he clubs down, he does a lot better. So he might go overlooked. Tide, I'm 100% on Tide. I'm absolutely, he's already in the pool. I don't know if I'm going to get to Webb or not. He just doesn't seem to be. Every time it looks like he's going to do something, like he made the cut last week or no, that's Kuchar. We haven't seen Webb in a few weeks. So he made the cut at Travelers. Obviously, then you go right back and he misses the cut at Rocket Mortgage. He's just treading water to me. I don't know. He's obviously here to play well and to try to win, because he's won this once, and it's his tournament to lose every year he's ever played it. So that's kind of his mentality. Now, as you get down here, I'm going to get into some Brandon Wu. Finally, I usually play Dylan over Brandon, but I think I might go Brandon over Dylan this week, because I think that the form is there, and I think he's just seems due to really, really have a good week. So I'm hoping on that. Gim is another guy that struggles with the putter sometimes, but he's been playing the best golf of his career. So if you're going to tell me I'm getting 3 to 5% Doug Gim, I'll bank that one. Down here a little further toward the 7K area, and I'll just finish it off, and then I'll pass it to you to clean it up, Dave. I'm not going to dig down under 7 too much, but right around here, I think Gim was my cutoff. I don't think I have anybody in here. I might do some diving into somebody like Riley, who can get hot out of nowhere. But anybody else, Nate Lashley, but let's see. Chesson Hadley at 7K, that's too expensive for him. And every time you look at Chesson Hadley and you're like, oh, he's made some cuts, and he's actually done good the last couple of years. And then you play him and he shoots 76 first day. So I'm not really sure where I land on him. But like I said, Kevin Hughes, somebody I'm definitely going to take a chance on finally, because he's just ball striking it like a madman. And he hits a ton of greens. He's plenty accurate enough. So the two guys that I'm going to play down here mostly are 6,600. Is I'm running back. I think Gerard might be one, but I'm running back Carson Young until because he's just lost it with the putter the last 2 weeks. Three plus strokes on 2 rounds of golf. The most of the ball striking, the accuracy, and the irons have been there. And the other guy, and I haven't played him in a long, long time, is Zach Johnson. I'm playing me some ZJ this week. Cut maker extraordinaire. 70% of fairways hit. He's got some back class here. He made the cut here last year. He's just been playing some Renaissance golf this year. I mean, he doesn't make he makes his cuts, but he's not he's not racking up top tens, but he's making cuts and he's getting it done. So I'm going to give ZJ a run. So who do you like left over here, Dave?
Yeah, a lot of the guys that you just mentioned in that lower 7K range, I'm on as well. Justin Suh is someone that I'll be looking at. He's been making a good amount of cuts. Not the most accurate, but he's accurate enough, I feel. He does lose on approach, but he is one of the best putters in the field, at least over the last 36 rounds.
Yeah,
a guy that I think who sets up really well for this particular course. And as of right now, he's only showing 2% ownership. Give me that all day. I think Andrew Putnam is someone that sets up extremely well for this course.
Oh
Uh,
man.
um, so that's someone I'm going to be looking at. Doug Gim, you already mentioned. Um, Chad Ramey has been making a solid amount of cuts as of late. So Chad Ramey, someone I'm going to be looking at. He hits a good amount of fairways. He's positive with the putter. I do have Chesson Hadley this week. Again, he's not someone that I think is going to be competing to win this thing, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Chesson Hadley has local ties to North Carolina. So I do think that Chesson Hadley is someone that you can look at, because he has made the cut almost every single year he's played here. So he'll be looking at someone I'll be looking at. You already mentioned Kevin Yu. MJ Duffy has been playing really good, especially over the last several weeks. He is much longer than he is accurate, so that's the only thing that concerns me
Yeah.
with MJ Duffy. That's something I'll be kind of looking at and debating on whether or not I do get him in my final builds. Under 7K, I think Justin Lauer might be someone that does well this week. Carson Young's in my player pool. Ryan Gerard, Zach Johnson in my player pool, and then a couple other guys that you didn't mention that I actually like. A guy that's, I think, made now 5 cuts in a row or 6 cuts in a row, who is one of the best in the field when it comes to strokes gained approach. I think Russell Knox is someone that I might be playing this week.
Yeah.
Bryce Garnett, I think, has now made 3 cuts in a row, 4 cuts in a row. Very accurate off the tee. I think he's only 6,300. So if you definitely want to try and get top heavy and you need to go under 7K, I might not mind Bryce Garnett. And here's a name, and I know that Stevie always puts this on Twitter, guys that I'm playing this week that you shouldn't. I haven't gotten there yet, but he might make a lineup or two. And I'm going way back. Jason Duffner.
I got him. I knew it. As soon as you started talking about him, I saw his name there, and I said, "I'm not playing that fucking guy." But you're right. He made 2 cuts. I mean,
I don't know if I'm going to get there. I mean, he's not that accurate off the tee, so I don't think I'm going to have to go that low. But he was in my player pool as someone. Don't think I'm going to get there, but you never know. Maybe he makes a lineup, because I think he's going to be sub 1% owned.
Yeah, I was going to say pick like a single entry tournament that you want one of those 0.01% guys and play him in that lineup. Like the one that I like on DraftKings is that $3 I forget, slingshot or some kind of shot. It's a $3 single entry tournament that normally has about 1,000 people in it. So that's a fun tournament, and they usually run 2 of them. So that's usually a fun one to get into. But I was digging the most of these guys. I almost pulled the trigger on Garnett last week, which he did make that cut. So he's another guy that can get hot with the irons. So I'm with you on that one. But like you said, I don't feel the need to get down here a whole lot. So
there is one other guy who obviously was a late replacement when Mitchell withdrew, and that's Cam Percy. Now I mean,
yes,
Percy,
I saw that. I said Cam Percy can't be $8,000, but you you slid him in the Mitchell spot.
Yeah, he was in the Mitchell spot. Now the pricing came out with these guys. Now he's 6,300. I mean, he always has been relatively good with his ball striking. He hasn't been good of late, but he's another guy that has good course history here. And as a late ad, obviously he's going to be probably almost not owned at all.
He's a nil guy. Yeah.
So I mean, that's another $6,300 play. I probably would favor Garnett over Percy or Duffner, but those are a couple options you could possibly look at.
And Marty Dew down here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that Marty Dew. If he clubs down, because he hits it a long way, if he clubs down and improves the accuracy, I mean, he hits greens, and you can see the big fantasy points gained. You never get anybody down here that low that gains like that. So Marty Dew, mark that one down too. All righty then. That'll do it for the show. Appreciate David coming on with me. And be on the lookout for more content. Race to 1,000 subscribers, almost there. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. And until the next time, for David, this is Billy Ho signing off, saying, see you soon.